Today I've been asked to spend 20 minutes talking about where great product roadmaps come from. With product roadmaps, I guess one of those things you normally don't actually get through half of, and it's kind of fingers crossed I managed to get through half this talk before I get the flash from Mathilde to wrap up. With no more delay, on to start. Before I do though, a quick word about what I've done. Great intro. Since then I've been building HireSpace, which is the UK's leading venue marketplace. It's the go-to website for a multi-billion-dollar industry where people can find and book thousands and thousands of venues. We've got over 1 million customers who come every year, tens of thousands making inquiries, and millions actually booked through the platform as well. It's something that I couldn't have done without the great team that we work with. Been really lucky to work with some great people. Just a quick shout out, if there are any UX UI designers who are out there who might want to work with or join the team, then you can come and talk to me at lunch. But back to the talk. One of the things that's helped everyone pull together and make sure that we're working in the same direction and that we all can do effective planning is the roadmap. So, just starting on what I think a roadmap is, it's how a product is likely to develop. It almost definitely won't, but how it's likely to. And it allows you to engage your stakeholders and actually sort of perform effective planning so that you can execute it well. I'm really excited to be talking about it because it's where you make the big decisions, kind of the big calls on what's going to get made. You can execute, and get all the details right. But if you're not building the right things, if you're not pulling in the same direction as a team, then it's quite easy to sort of fail before you've even started. And if you get the roadmap right, then you could be onto a winner. So there's 3 topics that I'm going to talk about today. The first is sort of what a roadmap should be and sort of how to present it. The second is what things should actually go on a roadmap. And then the third is deciding which of those things go on and how they get prioritized and what goes to the top, what goes right to the bottom. And then at the end, I'm going to give an example of the journey of what we're actually working on right now at HireSpace and how it went from something we hadn't been thinking about onto the roadmap all the way through, and is now being worked on and will be out in production in a couple of weeks. So this, some of you may recognize, is the roadmap for Meteor.js. And I thought it'd be good to just take a couple of examples because I don't think there's a right answer for what a roadmap should be and how it should look. I think it really depends on the context of the team and of your stakeholders and kind of who you're working with. So to take their example, they're like a popular full stack JavaScript framework, one of the most starred repos on GitHub. They've got thousands of really engaged users who are distributed all over the world and all kind of glued to their MacBooks. So in terms of them presenting their roadmap, they've got something which is perfect for people who are all over the world and glued to their MacBooks. So they're up on Trello. And I think there's kind of, for me, five things which make an effective presentation of a roadmap. The first is that it's really sort of transparent and accessible. The second is that it's somewhere that can have regular attention brought to it, so that all the stakeholders can focus on it. It should be somewhere where people can leave easy feedback and actually really engage in it. This is a bit of a personal one for me, but I think it should be somewhat limited in size as a physical manifestation so that it doesn't become too unwieldy. And I also think it should be something that is quite easily editable and can kind of be turned down because it really that's torn down because it sort of sends the message that it's just where you're likely to go and it's not something that's set in stone. So why I think this is great, I mean, it's perfectly accessible for people who are, sort of headphones on, stuck into the MacBook. That's amazing. You can easily send out a link in every blog post they do and all the newsletters that go out that really draw people in, so that's great. It's Trello, so it's super, super, super easy to leave feedback. There's thousands and thousands of comments, thousands of votes, and that really helps the owners to decide what gets done. And also, it's it's easy to change. Being Trello, you can just rip down the columns, you can move stuff around. It feels like something that's going to be moving, that's not completely set in stone. So that's why I really like it. Which is why, at HireSpace, I decided I'm just going to do that for me, because of course that it works for them. It must work for my team. And this is the decrepit sort of old roadmap that we had at HireSpace, and as you can see, it sort of it hasn't been used in a while, and it's because I wasn't really thinking if this was the right form of the roadmap for my team. So we've got about 25 people. The majority are sales and customer service. They're not necessarily they're not Trello users. It would be the only thing they use Trello for, and so they weren't necessarily so engaged. There was lots of, oh, where's the link? I can't find it. Oh, how do I log into Trello again? And so for them, it wasn't something that was super accessible. In terms of bringing people to it, you couldn't really put it up on a big screen and have people around it in the office. You could send a link around, but again, like, what are my login details to Trello? Was something that we got quite a lot. For feedback, again, it's the same tools, but for someone who's been there 6 months and has been really interacting with our customers and has really, really valuable insight, they don't always feel confident enough to sort of put a unilateral sort of comment up about what they think should happen to the whole company. And I found that was kind of a barrier to getting some really, really useful insight. And I think also we let it get far too big. So what we did is we tore it down, which was good. And this is now our roadmap at HireSpace. So this I feel is something that works for us. It's up on the wall in our sort of social chill out coffee area. So that means that everyone can see it. It's very clear. Everyone can interact with it every day. We can have team meetings around it, so everyone can provide feedback. Something which you can see they do with all the wonderful stickers which are up there. And in fact, there they are. There they are, the beautiful team. They're out, sort of putting their stickers on something which they feel a lot more comfortable in providing feedback. So you can quite easily see what's important without people, and listen to the conversations without people, feeling they're putting themselves out. And I find that really, really, really useful. I also love the way that it is quite limited in size. There's only a certain number of boards on that wall, so you can't let it bloat too much. It means you can look at it and it can actually provide a coherent vision of what you want for the product. If it gets too big, I think you kind of lose that. So I really, really like the way that you can only have so many things in each column. And also, it's blue tack, board marker, and paper. So it feels something that's what's likely to happen, but something that might change, and that's something that I really really like. So these are the things that I think make a really effective manifestation of a roadmap. The next question, though, is what stuff should actually go in it? And we've certainly made mistakes in the past. I'm sure that other teams do too. There's 3 things that I look for when I'm sort of deciding what goes on a roadmap. The first is it big? So I guess what I mean by that is it something that everyone really, really needs to know about, something that people are going to need to kind of work towards, and yeah, so something that's going to take some effort and have a real impact with customers. So for example, adding an extra search option to our search, not really going to go on there. Revamping the whole thing to incorporate all our customer data so that they're actually driving our search, that was something that was on our roadmap. The next thing is that we make sure anything on there, before it even gets a look in, is something that's very, very likely to shift one of our KPIs within 4 months of being launched. So, I mean, KPIs are a massive topic, and we could spend like a lot of time on. For us, it's conversion of visitors on the site into inquiries, from inquiries into confirmed bookings, and then the repeat booking rate of customers who've made an inquiry. And if we don't think that one of these things is going to make that impact in 4 months, there's probably other stuff that we could be doing, and it makes it easy to decide what stuff might go on and be considered, and what stuff might not. The other thing is it really scalable? We're, I guess, the same as all the companies you work for. We're someone who is growing now, but we want to be 10 times bigger. We want to be 100 times bigger. We want to be 1,000 times bigger years down the line. And we want to make sure that we're doing things that allow us to do that. And that doesn't necessarily mean automated. So for example, one thing is offering a concierge service, which involves a few hours of customer service time per inquiry. It's not something that's super slick and super tech, but it's super profitable. So it means that we can employ a few more people, grow the team, and so for me, that's something that's scalable. Whereas something that's super, sort of super techy, but has a set limit to it, wouldn't get consideration for the roadmap. So those are the three things that we're really looking for when we're looking to, I guess, see if something can be included on the roadmap, which brings us nicely to how items actually get on, and then how they move up and down the roadmap. And there's a few things that we consider, and so I'm just going to take you through them one by one. So the first is the stakeholders, and it won't be exactly the same for everyone. For us, the most important one, I think, at the moment is the information from the team. They're really, really, really close to the customer. Almost all of them have either customer-facing or product or like a marketing or technical roles. They've all got really, really valuable insights. We make sure that we're including their feedback. The other really important stakeholders are obviously our users and our customers. So it's really important to make sure that that you're actually asking them about what's on your roadmap. It doesn't mean necessarily presenting it to them, but you can ask customer services people to include it in conversations. We hold regular events where, as well as making sure that they're all happy and engaged in the brand, we also do ask them about a roadmap and what's important to them. And that provides some really, 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 really useful feedback. So making sure that they're always included in any decision that you make, super important. The other thing that we think about is time. And this is something that's incredibly difficult, because how long something's going to take, and therefore how much it's going to cost you, is just so difficult to estimate. We're never quite going to get it right, but so what we do is we try and make a sort of like a best guess, so we can make relative judgments between different things. So what we'll do is we'll take someone who's a major stakeholder in the product, we'll take a developer who's most likely to be doing more work than other developers on that thing, and then we'll sit down and get them to give it a number in the Fibonacci sequence. So it can be 1, 2, 3, 5, etc., like all the way up, and that helps us decide if this is something that's a really massive thing, a quite massive thing, not going to take too much time, and by not going into the detail, it allows you to be kind of truthful about how accurate the estimations are. We don't want to plan micro detail for the whole of our roadmap, because, as I said at the beginning, half of it we're not actually going to get around to doing, because by the time we do, there'll be something else that's super important. Very, very important as well, and I guess it kind of depends what stage you're at, is looking at the data. So for us, at our stage, we're looking at drop-offs in the different funnels that we have. We're looking at how that varies across different cohorts, and we're also looking at the number of customer service tickets that we have, because I find those to be an incredibly valuable source of what actually it is that's making people drop off, and what could improve the product. You also need to look at dependencies, and not just coffee or anything else that you might or might not be reliant on, but the dependencies between the different things. So often something might not be so important, but it's blocking a couple of things which are super, super, super important. So for us, that makes it jump way up the roadmap, and that's one of the key things we always make sure we tick off when we're considering what to prioritize and what can wait a little bit. And the final thing is the decision maker. We've done it before where we sort of take voting, we make it quite democratic, but we found that groupthink can often mean you make bad product decisions. We found that it always works best when you've got a single owner who owns that product, who's responsible for it, who's accountable for the decisions, who can listen to all the stakeholders, who can read all the data, who can consider the dependencies, and then create a coherent roadmap. I think if you have sort of like too much groupthink, then you often end up with something not quite so coherent. So for me, having someone in the team who's responsible for it is really, really, really important. So for me, those are the things that help us prioritize. And to finish, we're just going to look at a quick example of what we're working on at the moment, and how it actually sort of came to be on the roadmap to begin with, how it got prioritized up the roadmap, and now actually why it's happening. So the feature is venue groups. So as a venue website with thousands and thousands of venues that people can hire, for example, this one, we have lots and lots of sort of different problems, but one of them is the way that venues interact together. So this venue, Oval Space, has a sister venue, the Pickle Factory, which is just down the road. And what happens is someone signs them both up, and someone adds another admin to Pickle Factory and another admin to here, and then the person who signed them both up leaves, and then you've got two users who aren't really aware of the other venue, and you get lots of problems with login, who responds to stuff, who's actually got the admin permission to edit stuff, and it all becomes a mess. So the reason this has now crept to the top of our roadmap is because, first of all, our number one customer service ticket was, what's my account? How do I have these permissions? And we found that was wasting a lot of customer service time. It was creating a lot of friction, and it would have been difficult to diagnose that from the data. We knew there was some drop-offs, but we didn't know exactly why, so that's what kind of surfaced it. We then interviewed at events that we hosted, and just by flagging it to our customer service people to ask why this was happening, and the answer came back that someone else set it up by left. People weren't aware of other venues within their group who were using the platform. People weren't aware of how they conceptually fitted into it. So then it became a square on our all the way. It became a square up there in the sort of later one day. It then got loads and loads and loads of stars, especially from the customer service team and the sales team, who saw this as like, wow, why weren't we doing this? This is amazing, we should do this. Which meant that we weren't definitely going to do that all the way back. Really good to do this in the last minute of the talk. It meant that it was something that was seriously considered to be done. We then started looking at the other tickets, or the other items that we were thinking of doing, and we found that it underpins a lot of them. Building out systems for communicating with groups was something that was going to be a lot easier if we did this fast. So bringing all of those things together, our product manager decided that this was the next thing that we were going to be doing, and at the moment, not at the moment because it's a Saturday and they're probably in bed, hungover and just sort of chilling, but Monday to Friday, this is what our team's working on, and it'll be going out into production in a few weeks. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that gives you some reflections on the roadmaps that you've got at your companies, and that you can hopefully help to improve them. And thank you for listening, and thank you to the people at Jam, to Mathilde, to Seb, and to Slav for organising.